all of which turned his stomach. The machinations to get a man to notice a certain woman made Talon wary. He'd seen the same trickery directed at him on several occasions. He quickly moved to the side of the room and up the 4 steps to one of a dozen white granite pillars. From this vantage point he could see in almost every direction. Talon leaned a shoulder against the column and crossed his arms over his chest. He wasn't sure why Death had chosen him to spy upon the light court, but a Reaper didn't question orders. Well, that wasn't entirely true. It had happened only once, and it was a good thing the orders were questioned, because it turned out Death hadn't sent the directive for them to kill all half-fae among the humans. Turns out that order had somehow come from an old enemy out to end the Reapers and Death. The fact this new nemesis was none other than a former Reaper Death had sent to the Netherworld for his crimes only made things more difficult. Talon had no idea what Death hoped he might find spying upon the Light Court. All he'd discovered so far was that the Light somehow knew the Reapers were on Earth. No one knew who the Reapers were, or if, in fact, they were real. The Reapers were a story told to the young to scare them, as well as deter them from turning dark. The dark, well, he wasn't sure what they were told. The fact was, there wasn't a fae alive, light or dark, who wasn't frightened of the Reapers. Just the mention of them put the fae on high alert. If no one knew whether the Reapers were even real, why would the fae somehow know they'd returned to Earth? It was a question Talon asked himself over and over again, with no answer in sight. While he attempted to figure it out, he watched those at court. There were the ones who had prestige and position within fae society. Those few individuals walked around with a cocky smile in place, their heads held high as if they were above reproach. In their wake were others, whispering and plotting as jealousy threatened to swallow them whole. That was the next tier of light, those who wanted the top positions. These fae never stopped scheming or conspiring. Their goal was to be on top, and they were going to get there one way or another. This group was by far the largest, with its own social hierarchy that made Talon's head hurt each time he thought about it. The last group was those who managed to make their way to the castle by the Queen's invitation, some trade or bargain, or another such endeavour. These fae were rendered bright-eyed by the opulence and allure, and most didn't realise they needed to guard themselves against it all. With the right connections, these lowest of the fae could manage to get into the second level easily enough. However, working their way through that hierarchy was trickier than manoeuvring through a battlefield. "Hello, lover," whispered a sexy feminine voice in his ear as hands wound around him from behind. Talon smiled, unable to help himself. He looked over his shoulder at Neve. She raised a black brow, her silver eyes searching his. Desire struck him quickly, making him instantly hard. Neve managed to bring such a reaction from him every time he heard her voice, felt her touch, or looked at her. In other words, simply her existence filled him with lust. It knotted tightly within him, demanding that he claim her body. He drew in a shaky breath as he ached to taste her, to hold her luscious body against his. "You walked right past me." She lifted her chin, her dark pink lips tightening subtly. "I should be offended." Talon took her hand and pulled her around to face him. His skin prickled at the feel of her soft curves against him. His heart quickened when he breathed in her scent. How he craved this woman. "But you won't." He took in her heart-shaped face and high cheekbones, with skin that seemed to glow. Her ebony locks were pulled away from her face in several rows of braids, before being clasped at the back of her head, leaving the rest of her locks to fall about her shoulders. Black brows arched over large, almond-shaped eyes that tilted up at the corners. Her lashes were thick, her lips full. The long, slim column of her throat tempted him to lean down and nip at the delicate skin, while running his hands over her delicious curves.